Everyone please rise, and I'm asking for a moment of silence for a member of our community who died at age 83, Don Green, volunteer extraordinaire. He was one of the founders of the Clinton Library, a lot of our bike paths, moving Moravian Hall, Historical Commission, but Don will be missed. He was a great volunteer. Roll call, please. Mrs. Meltzer?
Thank you. Mrs. West?
Here.
Mr. Keys?
Here.
Mr. Pearl?
Here.
Mr. Cannon?
Here.
Mr. Aragona?
Here.
Mr. Gilliam? Here. Mrs. Meltzer here.
Thank you. Are there additions or deletions to tonight's agenda?
There are. Item 12 is deleted. Request to purchase Constant Contact. And item 13 and item 15 are add-ons, and they're also, well, actually, item 13 is request to hold closed session, and item 15 is an add-on discussion. Both of those items, 13 and 15, are requested to be in closed session at a written legal opinion from our legal counsel.
Thank you.
And then in addition to that, another add-on is item 16, request approval to pay SEMCOG.
So moved. Support.
Mr. Dolan, are we going to be coming out of closed session with decisions on your opinions?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, so when we end the meeting, the cable department can close. Thank you.
Mr. Cannon, also item 14 is an add-on, award of Green Macomb Urban Forest Partnership Grant.
Thank you. Roll call on the amended agenda?
Who made the motion? I'm sorry.
I did.
And who seconded that? I'll second that.
Mike.
I did,
Mike
I'm sorry.
Mike did.
Yeah, I
You did?
apologize, I
Okay,
did.
thank you. Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion
Thank you.
passes.
Now, welcome to your township board meeting this evening. If you have anything to say on an item as it comes before the board, please come to the podium and clearly give us your name and address for the record. If there's something you'd like to say that's not part of the agenda, you have at the end of the meeting 3 minutes to tell us what's on your mind. With that, we'll take item number 1, request approval to hold a Millionaires Party January 2020.
Dear Ms. Irvine, the Italian American Cultural Society would like to be placed on the agenda for the August 12th Township Board meeting. We are applying for a Millionaire Party license to be held in January 2020 and are seeking the approval of Clinton Township to hold this fundraising event. Attached is a local governing body resolution for charitable gaming licenses required by the state of Michigan as part of the application process. Your cooperation in expediting this approval is greatly appreciated. Respectfully submitted, Giovanni. Thank you. IACS President.
And they are here if there are any questions. They're merely asking for us to
Now, could you pronounce that?
Actually, yeah.
give a resolution for their gaming license.
So moved. Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please. Gilliam?
Just if I could, so thank you for being here on the agenda item. And is this an event that's going to be a fundraiser for a specific
It's gonna
organization
be-
or for the cultural
It's going
center?
to be a charity for scholarships for students, for the Italian Cultural Center.
For the Italian, okay, all right. So scholarships for people that are members or
Yes.
people that apply. Okay, great. I just wondered what the,
We have a lot of requests for Italian people to put more classes for the kids to speak Italian. So we're trying to raise some money to get some teachers and everything.
great, okay. Thank you
Paul,
very
you
much.
remember me?
Got to help me
Remember
out.
Hoover Market?
Hoover Market.
Uh-huh. You used to live on the next street. I used to be the cashier. Remember that? I used to hang with your brothers.
Yeah, I think those were actually my cousins, though.
Your cousin?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So now I don't feel bad for not remembering you, because that was my cousins.
All right.
All right, but thank you
Thanks.
for being here, and I appreciate your efforts.
All right, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
all right.
Have a good night.
Mr. Cannon, if I may, just to let gentlemen, you know, we'll go ahead and fill out the resolution, and I can email that to you, or if you want to come by and get it, that's fine too. If, do you have, I don't see an email address on here. Oh, yeah, yes, I do. Yeah, I have that email. That'll be fine. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 2, site development plan for St. Charbel's Church on Hayes Road.
This commission has made review of plans for site development and finds the plans are in compliance with the requirements of Clinton Township Planning and Zoning Code and those of other replying reviewing agents, recognizing that the engineering analysis is for preliminary purposes only. We hereby make recommendation for approval of the site development plans as stamped and dated July 25th, 2019. This action was approved by unanimous vote, and copies of the plans and pertinent data of record are enclosed for your information and file. This matter was petitioned by Core Bishop Alfred Badawi, St. Charbel Maronite Catholic Church, 43888 Hayes Road, Clinton Township, Michigan, 48038. We submit this proposal for consideration and would appreciate advisement of your determination. Sincerely, Catherine Cherry, Secretary for the Clinton Township Planning Commission.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions? Mrs. Meltzer?
I can't, again, give higher accolades than what we have in the past regarding your presence here in our township. We are so pleased to have your church here in Clinton Township, and it's a beautiful church. It's has been a wonderful impact already on Hayes Road, and we thank you for being here.
Move to approve the request?
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl.
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Mrs. West.
Yes.
Mr. Keys.
Yes.
Mr. Cannon.
Yes.
Mr. Aragona.
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam.
Yes.
Motion passes. I already did mine. Motion passes. Used to being last. You're all set.
Come on to vote twice.
Thank you for having us.
So happy.
We're very happy to be in the township.
Did you want to say anything about?
No, I just want to thank you for all your help, and if anything, we'll come back in front of you for any more requests. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Come. Yes.
We really need very badly the traffic light. I don't know how can you help us.
Wrong department.
We already
Macomb
had,
County Department of Roads.
Did you contact them, Mr. Cannon? Can I speak? Did you contact the Macomb County Department of Roads regarding?
We did when we started the project, but they said they need some help with the township and the work and just to put things together.
Okay,
It's not
so,
a simple process.
yeah.
We already had two bad accidents.
So, and it's only during the times when church is letting out, is that? the
Most
time?
of the time, yes.
Yeah. So is it more of a timing? I know that there was a discussion that did take place with the county. Nothing had come of it?
Nothing, no.
Okay. I can contact.
They did talk to the county already?
Well, yeah, and I did too. I sent over a request, but to speak with them on the matter, but I'll follow up again.
Okay. Thank you. God
Thanks.
bless.
Thanks.
Happy to be in the city.
Item 3, Clintondale firefighter and EMT event.
Dear board members, on Wednesday, August 28th, 2019, at 5 p.m., Clintondale Community Schools will be hosting their 4th annual Welcome Back event. We have gathered Clinton Township firefighters as well as MedStar to host an educational and physical pilot program at the open house. We hope the success of this will lead to a full program as well as future careers within our township. During my first 2 years as trustee, I performed regular ride-along shifts with both our police and fire departments. In doing this, I learned a lot about the great team of people that serve our community. While I witnessed the true dedication of these individuals' willingness to serve others, I also believe the departments would benefit from more diversity. Initially, I met with Chief Fye and then Chief Duncan to discuss ways to increase diversity in the fire department. Through these conversations, I have been very encouraged by the department's willingness and drive to accomplish increased diversity. After some research, we discovered other communities have had success with increasing diversity by developing a workout program that allows students to build proactive relationships with local fire departments. By building these relationships, we hope to close gaps in knowledge, improve trust, and increase the number of minority applicants. It is my pleasure to invite all Clinton Township residents as well as board members and their families to attend this event. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, Mike Keys.
Mr. Keys?
Thank you, Mr. Cannon, and thank you, Ms. Meltzer. I think the letter summed it up pretty well. We've been working on this for about 2 years, and I'm excited to have really three of our great partners in the audience right now, the new administrative assistant, Stephanie Middlestedt. We have Chief Duncan as well, and then we have a representative from MedStar as well. I don't know if you all three want to come up real quick and so we can recognize the work that you've all put in. When we had these initial discussions, we realized that bringing the fire departments and in the future even police departments into the classrooms would really help build a relationship so that young student, whether male, female, minority or not, really saw firefighting as an option in the future. And so we think this is a good first step, and we do hope that in the future we're able to develop this into even a larger program that encompasses the other school districts and is available more often to students. So I just wanted to thank the chief. Chief, can you talk to us a little bit about the new equipment that's going to be displayed at the event?
Sure. So this is an event that really has evolved into what's going to end up being an excellent career opportunity night for the students that are going to be there as part of the Clintondale Open House, which I kind of stole the idea that came through MedStar when they started this up, I believe, in East Point. And they were gracious enough through Stephanie checking with them to make the same offer, which I'll let them speak on that portion of it. But it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for our students of Clintondale to kind of start experiencing the medical side. So we're going to also have, on our part, as far as the physical part of it, we're going to bring some of our equipment as far as like the larger hose. We have a specialized sledgehammer that we use for working out. So they're going to get to have some experience as far as some of the physicality of it. And we're going to bring our gear, let them try it on, put on the mask, that type of stuff, because there's a few things that stop some of the kids from pursuing a career in the firefighting field. That's claustrophobia, which they're going to find out pretty quick that day if they're going to be able to handle that. The other part is the medical training part of it is exceptionally hard. It's what keeps a lot of individuals from pursuing a career in firefighting, trying to get over that paramedic mark, as far as this. So Stephanie also has the college coming out, so we're going to have a variety of groups that are going to be in attendance. They're going to be there to explain the degree program that they have for firefighter paramedic, as well as some of the other opportunities that open up to you when you get through the EMT program and the medic program in the medical field. So you not only have to become a firefighter, you could become a nurse, ER tech, stuff like that. So it's really going to open up the whole wealth of possibilities. So I like this because it's actually turning into opportunity for the kids that are going to be there that night. And the fact that I believe MedStar is going to be covering the cost for a lot of this, the initial part, is just fantastic. So I'll let them speak on that if you'd like.
So we're very happy to be part to, expand any knowledge and help any of the township residents, especially the children coming up. We have had an EMT program through East Point Community Schools that's actually just wrapping up, and those students are just this past weekend actually on the ambulances and, finishing their education too. So it's a great way to get back to the community or invest in the township residents and give back any way we can. So we're happy to partner with the fire department and then the township board to help our citizens out and residents out in any way we can.
Nice.
Thank you.
Sir, what's your name?
My name's Frank Simone.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you all.
Okay. I'm very happy about this going on, but there's a few things that the letter might be missing. We will have our police department there also, handing out materials. But in the first and in the second to last paragraph, you talk about developing a workout program. That's not part of this event. This event is educational. And they will have, the fire department will have some of their workout gear there, but it appears to me like you think in the first paragraph you say it's a physical pilot program. Educational, yes, for sure. But not physical, and there's going to be no working out.
So I'm a little confused by the correction that you're making. I've gone, actually, the idea came up during one of my workouts with the fire department where we were doing just that, trying to learn different educational values to the actual career. And I'll tell you, it is a workout, no matter what you're doing as a firefighter, whether you're just putting the suit on and having some equipment on you and walking a couple feet, or something that one of your firefighters put me through, walking up and down a tire a couple times just to see what it felt like to climb some steps. I ended up getting sick halfway through the workout because of how intense it was. So we won't have anything like that. You're correct. But
That's what I was concerned about. Good.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and there will be part of, we will be bringing out a unit, it's kind of a educational blow-up. It's not a bounce house, but it looks like a bounce house, that is taking the place to educate the younger children about fire safety. We can smoke that thing up and show them different parts about like getting out of a building. So that's going to make its introduction at that event also. And a really, really nice part about this being the community and reaching out to our residents and the students is one of the toughest parts of our job also is knowing the community, knowing the roads, knowing the areas. We find that to be very difficult for some of the people that we're hiring that are from outside our area. So have the opportunity for kids in our own backyard to possibly be part of our department will be great. So we're happy that hopefully they'll pursue this avenue. It's about a 3-year program, to get through. So if they can get this up and running and get through this while they're still in high school, they're so far ahead of the curve that it's going to help them a lot. So.
And MedStar is very interested in this program at the high school level because they cannot find enough employees. The reason is they get into the MedStar ranks and they want to become a nurse, they want to become a firefighter. There's other occupations, other directions they can go. So MedStar has reached out and will continue to reach out. In fact, part of what they're going to do that night is offer educational materials and scholarship materials so that kids who can't afford to go will go to the MedStar office on North Gratiot. In fact, it's the Robert J. Cannon Training Center. And they will be given an opportunity to get way ahead of the game. So that's, I think, very important. I know that a couple years ago, Mrs. Meltzer virtually saved the robotics program by going to this event. And you want to talk a bit about that? The program was ongoing, but they were going to dissolve it. I remember.
Yeah, well, you know what, it's different, but it's the same. My focus was on robotics, given the fact that my husband and I are involved in manufacturing, and the difficulty it is, what you're facing is recruitment, getting, good employees, and that was my motivation in talking with the kids and seeing, just the talent they have. These kids are great kids. You guys are going to be so pleased, and I think it's going to really work out well. I'm really glad, Mike, you brought this forward, and you're working on this. This is a great opportunity for the kids at Clintondale, and in many more ways than one.
And anytime they offer a class at MedStar, they send out a blast to every health class teacher so that they can let their students know that this is afforded to them.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Couple questions. First of all, Chief, you know that Mount Clemens General, AKA Mount Clemens General, now McLaren Macomb, but for years had the firefighter program with the wellness program over there, which I actually was the one who made that marriage. Do you have anybody who you're working with now?
No, they, due to the changes in some of the healthcare provisions, the physicals that we used to do through the department are now handled individually.
Okay.
So we're going that route. We do some minimal stuff as far as like testing for, certain disease processes and stuff like that. But as far as the physicals, we kind of lost touch with that part of it. Our new hire physicals are done, but that's done through Ascension right now. So,
Okay. Secondly, with the program that you have and with the program MedStar has, have you ever married that with grade 13 through Macomb Community College, where you go in your junior year and you're taking some classes at Macomb and a few your junior year, a few your senior year, but then you take a lot more that year after and you've got an associate's degree? So maybe that could be your fire and your EMT paramedic associate's degree.
Yeah, and that's a possibility. This part, which I think Chippewa Valley or Dakota might have done it in the past, where they were able to get their EMT license through the school during their senior year. But the fire academy will be starting a nighttime academy again. They used to have them back when I went through years ago. And they're looking at starting now. They're going up in about a year. So maybe there's that possibility of the tie-in.
Okay.
Which would be a great time, that evening to kind of discuss that. But it's, they got a pretty good program, whether it's, through Macomb or stuff like that, for the kids to pursue it and come out with an associate's degree, which up until probably the last 5, 6, 7 years wasn't a possibility. So,
Okay. If you would like some help with that grade 13 piece of it,
Sure.
I can help you with that.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's a definite benefit, when you realize that some of these kids are coming out with a year or two to college credit before
Right.
they're out of high school. So,
Right. I had a lot of students I worked with,
Yeah.
so good job.
Thank you. Mr. Pearl?
Yeah, Mr. Killingham had something to say first.
So, that's okay.
I don't
Oh,
care.
go ahead.
I don't care who
Go
goes
ahead.
first.
Okay, just a comment. I think it's a great program, Mike. Thanks for bringing it forward. if you need any extra help, I can't help you, but, because I'm not EMT. But my cousin, Tom Mill, he serves on, he was a Clinton Township resident, used to be a battalion chief in Roseville in training. For 40 years, he taught at the academy and ran part of it for a number of years, and just retired. And he might want to help someone, give some advice and some help, so if you're interested, you know, you probably know him. He's
I
taught
definitely know the name.
quite a few people, quite a few EMTs over the years, and it is difficult courses. He gave me a course one time, and it was quite medically challenging to learn.
And the EMT portion is the easy part. The paramedic part is light years harder. So.
Yeah.
And one of the most important things that you're doing with this event, and Mike, you're getting the right people. The kids need to know early on what they need to do to prepare themselves to get into this field, police, fire, EMS. Mr. Gilliam?
Stealing my thunder. So just real quick, one, I always like to see this outreach to Clintondale as a former Clintondale graduate, and I chair the Educational Foundation, so I know that you guys were there, you know, promoting scholarships and other things that you do. But they have this event every year, and it's this open house. It's the outreach to the community. It's the school opening up the doors and, you know, having things on the field and meeting the teachers and families coming there. And so, but exposing young people to potential careers, I think is, and not just sort of talking about it, but giving them the experience of it, I think, is very important. And so I can't say enough good things. I think it's great that we're doing this. I appreciate Michael for having brought it forward. And let me sort of just say this. So I also did a ride-along one night with the fire department, and it was an uneventful night, which is way
Luckily.
the fire department wants it, right?
Yep.
But I also had an opportunity to do a ride-along with MedStar several years prior to that, and that was an eye-opening experience as to what first responders deal with. And what I also got the impression of is that this is a continuum. So people start out sort of getting this certification, and then they're able to do this type of work. And then as they're working, they continue their education, and then they, you know, move into this type of work. And then they try to advance in sort of the medical career and the first responder career. And so it's great to see this wonderful partnership.
Sure.
I think it's great. Thanks.
And the nice thing was during the active assailant training that happened the other day at Clintondale, which was another great event, a lot of the students, we hung out for about an hour afterwards, and they were very engaged, asking questions and kind of learning, you know, not that they're necessarily looking to be firefighters, but they were interested in what, you know, our job, we had to say about it. So I think it'll be good.
The exposure is real good. Mr. Keys?
Yeah, just on a last note, I want to make sure that we convey this, as Clintondale wanted this to be conveyed, that this is an open event to the community. This is not a high school-related event. This is for their entire school district, and it is meant for the whole community to come out. So maybe you don't have a kid in Clintondale schools, but this would still be an opportunity for you to come out and interact with the school district and the township. So.
Thank you. And I know that Stephanie Middlestad, you did a lot of coordinating and putting the whole package together, so thank you very much for that.
Yes, no problem.
And-
It was an honor. I'm not a firefighter either, or an EMT, but when Mike brought it to me, I was proud to be a part of this project, and I enjoyed connecting the dots. And now we've got, like you said, the police, fire. I believe you're going to come out and help people maybe register to vote, and I think you were going to help if people had anything with their billing and stuff like this. It's really turning into a great opportunity for us to interact with our schools and our kids at the Clintondale. And the Clintondale Community Schools as a whole have been really great to work with, and I've met a lot of cool people. So thank you for letting me be a
And
part
weather
of it.
permitting, we'll have a helicopter land sponsored by MedStar. With that, I'll make a motion to receive and file the letter from Mr. Keys.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes.
Thank you. Item 4, approval of appointment to Office Clerk 2 position, Building Department.
Dear members of the board, the Building Department is recommending the appointment of Ms. Linda Holtz to the position of Office Clerk 2. Ms. Holtz successfully completed all civil service testing and was selected by the department for after candidate interviews. As a condition of employment, she is required to successfully complete a background investigation and pre-employment medical examination, including drug test. This is a budgeted position. Ms. Holt's starting salary will be $35,814 as specified in the UAW Unit 52 Collective Bargaining Agreement. Upon Township Board approval, her appointment date will be effective August 19, 2019. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, William Smith, Human Resources Director.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
A roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 5 is approval of appointment to part-time park maintenance position.
Dear members of the board, the Department of Public Services is recommending the appointment of Mr. Greg Lamontage, no, I'm not sure, I'm sorry, to the position of part-time park maintenance. Based on interview results and civil service testing procedures, the department is confident that Mr. Lamontage is well qualified and will be an asset to the township. As condition of employment, he will be required to successfully complete a background investigation and a pre-employment medical examination, including drug screen. This is a budgeted position for AFSCME 1103.12 contract. The starting hourly wage for the position is set at $16. Upon board approval, Mr. Lamontage's first day of employment will be August 13, 2019. Thank you for consideration of this matter. Sincerely, William Smith, Human Resources Director.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Support.
A roll call, please.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. And item 6 is appointment to the Police and Fire Civil Service Commission.
This is, applicant is Daniel Goulet, and his application is here, and this is in response to the recent resignation of Mr. Raymond Gleim, who actually served with much integrity, and we just love the work that he did, and we're sorry to see him go, but you have to live in the community, and he recently moved out of the community, and so.
And he will remain on the Arboretum Committee,
Good.
as he doesn't need to be a member living in the community. Mr., he didn't give us a lot of time. And this is a commission, so we have to appoint someone within 10 days. So his letter of resignation is a part of this package. This board makes this appointment. The union makes the appointment of Mr. Russi. The two of them together make the appointment of the third person on that board. Mr. Russi has sent an email adding that he would like to recommend Mr. Goulet for this appointment also. I've known Mr. Goulet as a very able, qualified, hardworking magistrate in the community. I don't think this is a paid position, but if it was, it's not very much. And he lives in the community, and he's been here for a long time, knows it well, and knows the township. So it's my recommendation that we appoint Mr. Goulet to this position.
Is that your motion?
And the term, I did give you a letter, I thought, Mrs. Meltzer, as to when the term ended.
I don't see the letter.
Oh, it goes through April, it ends July 18th, 2023.
Is that your motion?
That is my motion.
Support.
Thank you. Supported by Mrs. West. She was before you.
Fine.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion
Thank you.
passes.
Item 7, bid award for the 2019 sanitary sewer rehab by full-length CIPP lining.
Dear board members, on July 30th, 2019, the Charter Township of Clinton's Clerk's Office received and processed a total of 5 bids for the above referenced project. Our office checked the tabulation of the bids, submitted the low bidder is In Situform Technologies USA, LLC of Howell, Michigan, main corporate offices in Chesterfield, Missouri. In the bid total amount of $2,414,895.20. A copy of the final bid tabulations are attached with this letter. The project consists of 30,400 lineal feet of cured-in-place pipe, or CIPP, lining of existing public sanitary sewer ranging in 10-inch to 24-inch diameters. These existing sewers are primarily along 15 Mile Road, Kelly to Harper, Glenwood Road, Groesbeck Highway, and miscellaneous sewers downstream of food service-related businesses. The majority of the CIPP lining for this project will be within Clinton Township ACO sewer districts. As a condition of the bid requirements, prospective bidders were required to be pre-qualified for cured-in-place pipelining for sanitary sewers and sanitary sewer cleaning and televising. In situ Form Technologies USA LLC provided the necessary pre-qualification information to be considered for bid award. The bid results were reviewed with the Director of Public Services and Township personnel. Based upon the bids submitted and conditions noted above, we recommend that the 2019 sanitary sewer rehabilitation by full-length CIPP lining be awarded to In Situ Form Technologies USA LLC, located at 1088 Victory Drive, Howell, Michigan, 48843, in the amount of $2,414,895.20. Sincerely, Scott Chabot, Senior Project Engineer for AEW.
Thank you, and I should point out, this is not part of our ACO project, but it is in that district area, and it is preventative, and it will last for many, many years. Are there any comments or questions? Mr. Pearls?
You know, I just, personal note, 20 years ago or so, I first found out about this system. In fact, it was the assistive form, or whatever they call themselves, that installed the first one. And while it's not as exciting as a ride-along with the fire department, it is interesting to watch how they pour this in place. And then they send robots in to recut out the leads going out, in and out of the system. But it does save a tremendous amount of digging up pipes. So I highly recommend whoever's the low bidder on this.
Well, this company's been doing this a long time, and you're right, it saves us a lot of money. It's very less disruptive to neighborhoods, and it's much quicker. Mr. Aragona?
Yeah, I have two quick questions here, and I'm not sure if they're for Scott or for Mary. But I see on the bid sheet, the tabulation of bids, you got two red asterisks on there, and it says corrected by engineer. I don't know if, Mary, that's you or Scott.
Yeah, sometimes in their math, could be potential math errors when they submit their bids. So any other project we get that would require, we review all the bids and basically tabulate them and put them on a spreadsheet, double check the math, and then add them all up. And a lot of times when they have to handwrite those in there as part of the bid requirements. And sometimes there's math errors and other things we have to check.
Okay, so that's corrected by you?
That's corrected by us, yes.
Okay.
Sort of like when we do our campaign statements to the county,
Yeah.
And then they're confirmed by,
and then they
Yes.
check your math.
So sometimes, yeah, the as read doesn't necessarily mean that's the final bid amount, because that's when we have to go and do all the double check of the math and
Gotcha.
all those
Okay.
items.
And then the second question, again, I don't know which one before. I've had conversation about different projects around Macomb County. Actually, Mr. Pearl and I were kind of discussing at one point how cost of construction seems to be going out for different things, such as, road paving or whatever it happens to be. Are you seeing that here with this type of work as well, or is this kind of immune to it?
I compared some of these numbers from last year, and actually they're not, I don't see a real significant difference.
Really? Okay.
At least in this type of technology, or most of the, and I'd say I'd go as far as saying a lot of the underground work, if it's just pipe installation, and I haven't seen a real large, 1 year, 2 year increase. It's primarily been in the paving.
Okay.
And a lot of that's just due to material shortage or supply and demand, especially in the paving side.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Gilliam?
So I was so impressed with this process. Scott invited me out last September. I did this Facebook post on it because it's like 8 pictures on there, and it gives you a sense as to putting this liner down in the pipe. There's a guy down there with a harness line on, and, he's making sure it goes in right. I would not want that job. Then they flush water in there, invert it, then put hot water in, seal it to the actual pipe lining. So this was the line on Garfield.
That's correct. You were there for the inversion process.
So, but the thing was at that time, so that was a different company, one of the bidders here. This company outbid. You got 3 bids that are relatively the same, then you got one that's an outlier. Any sense as to why that one would be so much larger?
Well, I think too, meaning higher, you mean?
Oh, yeah, you got one that's like a complete outlier, way higher.
It could be that
the other
just
three
they,
were in the
a lot of
ballpark
times
relatively.
they just bid because, a lot of them have a lot of work and they
Okay,
still want to put in a bid to show that they're interested in doing work in the township, but
yeah. Okay, so now these, if you do the math here, you've got 30,400 lineal feet, and you've got all these different locations, and this is sort of tied into one project, but if my math is correct, this is about like 5 3/4 miles.
it's a lot, yes.
Yeah. And so you've got all these areas, so this is all a function of having TV'd these lines and said, hey, we've got weaknesses, or we've got areas
Correct.
that we need
From
to
the
shore up.
prior TV and cleaning program that we had through a lot of the trunk line sewers, as part of we had a 10-year TV and cleaning plan that's been established. And in the past year, we did a lot of the trunk line sewers, which happened to be in the ACO districts. And these were ones that were found that we had, that were in need of rehabilitation. And also, in addition to just doing the TV and cleaning program, it's also part of the grease management program, where we actually were able to.
You're anticipating where I was going. So-
Exactly. And so we got, there was a lot of video evidence downstream of a lot of these food establishments where a lot of these pipes are deteriorated or in need of rehabilitation as well.
So when you say the grease program, you're talking about the program that was instituted to basically say, if you're a food establishment, you have to have the necessary grease capture type of things on your sinks and, anything that goes into the drains, because that, as you've stated to us, the grease is just completely eroding the pipes.
Yeah, and that program, Ms. Bednar, how long has that been in place now? About a year and a half?
Yeah, about a year and a half. And so, unfortunately, this result is because of the last 20 years of not having the program. But the program has been able, now that we're in there and we're looking at it and talking to restaurants, we're able to pinpoint it. These areas, we used to be going in and trying to clean these areas numerous times. And then we started seeing, I'm going to call them a mini sinkhole outside because the pipe had failed. The other thing to remember on these lining projects is this is equivalent to putting in a new pipe. So it's not just going to buy us a couple years. This is going to give us decades of, repairs and so forth. And we don't have to repair the road and have those high costs. So this is kind of all underground. It's already there, and using that, mechanism.
So it's certainly cost effective. How does the grease interact with the lining that is there? I mean, I know we have a maintenance program now to help prevent that, but is the grease as harmful on this lining as
No.
it is? Okay.
It's basically inert to it.
Okay, so this can withstand that.
Kind of like PVC pipe or truss pipe, same thing,
Yeah.
same materials.
Okay.
They don't react with it like the same as reinforced concrete pipe would.
Okay. And so this is not part of the ACO, but it's related is kind of how it was, presented
Yeah,
here
a lot of
tonight.
these were just larger diameter sewers that were, the ACO, most of the smaller diameter sewers have been lined over the last 10, 15 years. These were some of the larger lines that were of, more difficult magnitude to line because of the issues about bypassing the flows and maybe just the size, traffic concerns. But I mean, these are just as important. I mean, these are main transmission mains, and due to their high criticality, these were the kind of the next ones here we really had to look at trying to really to rehab.
So this then helps the infiltration of like groundwater and rainwater into these pipes as well.
Yes.
So therefore, we're eliminating water from the system that shouldn't be there. And that was really one of the goals of the ACO, was it not?
That's the continued goal as well, is to keep drying it and finding ways to eliminate all this infiltration and inflow coming into the sanitary sewer system.
Okay, and I apologize for doing this at the meeting and asking all these questions, but here's the thing, and this is what I think is really important. I think it's good to sort of give people a description. When people see we're spending $2.4 million doing some sewer project, to give people a sense as to what we're spending all that money on and how does this benefit us as a community, how does it overall benefit our environment, how does it keep, sewage out of the river, so I think all this goes hand in hand. It's the reason why I did the Facebook post. This is a fascinating process, and it's really a testament to your department and your firm for getting together and making sure we go above and beyond.
It's about having a prudent asset management plan as well, which the township has been enacting definitely for the last at least 10 years.
So we're spending that money wisely.
And I
on
do want to
preventative
compliment
measures.
the board, because when we started budgeting about 5-6 years ago, we started this, we're going to TV and clean one year, and then the next year, we're going to pick up the TV and cleaning, keep going, but fix what we found. And, all of us kept our fingers crossed we wouldn't find anything, but when you have a system that in some places is 56 years old, it's natural that those pipes are starting to fail and so forth. Pipes don't, it's like a road. It doesn't have an infinite lifespan. So what we're finding is aging infrastructure or grease areas or whatever. And so we are trying to be proactive and get ahead of there so that every 10 years, every 15 years, we make sure we see a pipe and go, okay, it is reacting good to, the lining isn't reacting to, and be able to be proactive instead of having to redo it again and try to keep it ahead of schedule.
An added benefit to all of this is that we don't have to pay to process rainwater like we do our sewage. Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 8, bid award for Harrington Pump Station and Ridgewood Pump Station improvements.
Dear board members, on August 6, 2019, the Charter Township of Clinton's Clerk's Office received and processed a total of 3 bids for the above referenced project. Our office checked the tabulation of the bids submitted, and the lower bidder is J. Rank Electric, Inc. of Mount Pleasant, Michigan, in the bid total amount of $359,084. A copy of the final bid tabulations are attached with this letter. The project consists of the removal and replacement of the pump station's control panels at the Harrington and Ridgewood sanitary sewage pump stations. New emergency standby generators and other related purchases are also part of this project. This work satisfies the goals to have updated, reliable control panels and standby generators at each sanitary sewage pump station. These efforts will improve the overall reliability of these critical sanitary sewer collection system assets. As a condition of the bid requirements, prospective bidders were required to be pre-qualified for the pump station rehabilitation. J. Rank Electric, Inc. provided the necessary pre-qualification information to be considered for bid award. The bid results were reviewed with the Director of Public Services and Township personnel. Based upon the bids submitted and conditions noted above, we recommend that the Harrington and Ridgewood pump station improvements be awarded to J. Rank Electric, Inc., located at 1993 Gover Parkway, Mount Pleasant, Michigan, for 8858 in the amount of $359,084. Sincerely, Scott Chabot, Senior Project Engineer for AEW.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions?
Mr. Cannon.
Mr. Gilliam?
Okay. So, another expensive project here, right? So just a couple of questions on this, and that is, years ago, we set up this monitoring system, and we hired an electric company, and they came up with all of this ways that we can save money in overtime so that we're reporting information in, and we're also, monitoring the flow. And it seems to me that this is one of those things, the electronics for the pump station would go hand in hand with that. And I'm wondering if, we're doing this as a preventative thing, or if this is a responsive thing, or if this is something that it's just gone well. And then the integration between those systems, I guess.
So the system that you're referring to is our SCADA system.
Correct,
That
yes.
actually monitors all of our assets in the Water and Sewer Department, as well as some of our assets with our DPW. But what it does is it monitors these pumps. So when the pump goes on, it reports to the SCADA system, who then reports to us to say it's on, it's off. So our SCADA system is the reporting mechanism of what is going on in the system. These pumps are actually what we call lift pump stations. And what you do with sanitary sewers, or what you try to do with sanitary sewers, is you want gravity flow. So you start and you have a pipe that comes like this going down. But you don't want the pipe to be 50 feet underground. Now, you have your big interceptors that are that big because they're so big and so forth, and everything has to flow to it. But pipes that we have in Clinton Township, you don't want to have that deep. So otherwise, when my guys have to get down there, dig a hole, I don't want them going 25, 30 feet deep. So what happens is once you get to about 15 to 20 feet deep, what you do is you build a lift station, which then lifts that sewage up, and then you start gravity again. And that's how a lift station works. So these are lift stations that we have in our system. As part of our asset management, we looked at it and said, you know what? We don't need to wait for it to be broken. Let's start working and move forward so that A, it's less expensive, but also it's more reliable. So we've been doing these pump stations now for several years. You've been approving them. We've added generators to them so that if the power goes out, because what happens when a storm happens, the power goes out? Well, guess what? We don't want basements to back up. So we put generators, and we're doing the necessary asset management to these to make sure that they're reliable for us. Does that answer your question?
It does. But, so then integration, do they need to be integrated with the monitoring systems? Or
Oh, that's
they're
all
just-
part of this.
okay.
They are completely integrated.
Okay.
Yeah, as part of the scope of work, they'll be transferred from the existing panel to the new panel
Okay.
to, monitor the flows and make sure the water and sewer personnel are updated, they get all the information they need to monitor the station correctly.
But looking at that monitoring, we can also say, you know what, maybe we should put a bigger pump in because it's cycling too fast because we're monitoring it. So that monitoring, we know what's going on, but we can also then take that data and analyze and go, does that make sense, or should we do something different?
What's the average life cycle of these electronic systems for the pumps?
I'd estimate, like 20, 25 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to go with 15 to 20, so.
Technological advances usually result in replacement for actual breakdown, is what happens with SCADA systems.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Mr. Pearl?
Well, I hope the SCADA system lasts for a while. We spent $600,000 on that system. And I know it's important, otherwise we'll be flooding basements if we don't know what's going on. How many pump stations do we have, Mary?
Oh, my gosh.
I think it's 13.
13, I'm pretty sure it's 13.
Those are just lift stations.
Right.
So-
And then, of course, you have our ACO pumps that we're eliminating, but we
Don't
have
say that.
13 of the lift stations.
We're not using them. We don't know if we're.
We've converted a couple of them into actually lift stations.
Okay. So what progress are we making on them? How many of them have been worked on?
We're actually wrapping up. I'm not sure the exact number, but I think we only have a couple left.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, our goal is to have generators at all of them. We're, like Ms. Bednar said, we're close.
So they're mostly all on backup generators?
That's correct.
And I know the generators-
Standby backup generators, yes.
Yeah, I know I know a few times I've seen them run out with generators in the old days, a few years ago.
Well, and
Power
we used to only have, we had two generators. And so if the power was out at multiple parts in the township, you're running across town, pumping one down, then running to the next one, and then having to run back. I mean, this way, again, it's all about being reliable to the residents and our customers, our water and sewer customers. They pay, a rate, and they expect to be able to flush their toilets and have it go away.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Floor is open for a motion.
So moved.
Support.
supported by Mrs. West. Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melser, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Item 9, introduction of Township Ordinance 458, amendment to the Consumer Fireworks Ordinance.
Mr. Cannon, this is just we're at the introduction stage of this, and this is in response to information I received from the MTA. Later on in the meeting, we'll be approving a fee to participate with SEMCOG. This is very similar. SEMCOG provides important information that affects townships and on various issues. The MTA does the same thing, and they did let us know about the change recently in the state legislature that reduced the number of hours that people can shoot off fireworks. And previously, they were allowed around federal holidays the day before and the day after, and that was about 30 days that the public could legally shoot off consumer-grade fireworks. And now the law is only making fireworks legal on December 31st at 1 a.m. on December 31st and on January 1st, and then Saturday and Sunday before Memorial Day until 11:45 p.m., June 29th to June 4th until 11:45 p.m., also July 5th only if that day is a Friday or a Saturday until 11:45 p.m. So the rest of the days of the week, it falls, that's not allowed. The Saturday and Sunday before Labor Day until 11:45 p.m. And these will be posted on our website. So this comes to about approximately 13 days. So we went from 30 days to 13 days that these are allowed to be used. And again, I want to reiterate how important it is for a lot of families call in at this time. Our police are bombarded with the calls for them to come out and address illegal or noise related to fireworks. And it's just an impossible task for our police to answer every one of these calls. In addition to that, the thing that I feel very important that needs to be mentioned, there are things that proactively the public can do in terms of their dogs. I have 2 dogs of my own, and have learned that over the years, previous dogs that I owned until I recently, the last few years, was with a trainer and learned how important it is to work with your dogs on this matter, loud noises, not just on fireworks, but on any other type of loud noises. And it really has worked for me personally. I did a cable show on it, and it's about, you can listen to that, but just really briefly, if, this is coming up, the season is coming and approaching, you want to exercise your dog that day, you want to provide treats for it, and just make it a really positive day while those loud sounds are taking place. And soon, the dogs really just learn to ignore it. And both my dogs are not afraid now when it comes to fireworks. So it has worked for me. I'm not saying it will work for everybody, but it's something you really do have to invest the time and effort in for your pets. And it is such a blessing to have that, because there's so much anxiety that I once felt at one time when my dogs were shaking and just terrified when fireworks went off. So now it's less of an issue for me, but my heart still goes out for those people that have to deal with that. So hopefully they can learn some training techniques that will help their pets.
Very good, and it's my understanding that this is as strict an ordinance as we're allowed per state regulations. Mr. Dolan?
Mr. Cannon, you are correct, and I should also add that there's another provision within the ordinance that is significantly reducing the temporary structures from which fireworks can be sold. That state law has allowed us to, if it's a decision by you, to significantly reduce those numbers. And we were taking them all the way down to just 2 allowed temporary structures selling fireworks in the township. Those can only be situated in a B2 zoning district, and they have to be at least 2,000 feet apart. So we will only have, at most, 2 temporary structures at any single time selling those fireworks.
Very good. Yes, sir.
Bob Hogan, 36755 Bar Street, Clinton Township. Governor Snyder is the one that brought this fireworks into Michigan, wasn't he the one
No.
that it happened during his term?
He did, but he didn't bring it in, if I may.
Go right ahead.
So the legislature, which actually, the sponsor of that was Harold Hoff, the state rep from Roseville, that introduced that legislation, but it was approved by both chambers of the Michigan House and Senate, and then also signed into law by the governor, by Governor Snyder.
I remember when it came in, thank you. I remember when it came in, every board member was not appalled or something, but sort of shocked and was getting all kinds of telephone calls from the constituents here. Now that he is gone, meaning Snyder, and there's a new governor, has anybody attempted to contact any of our representatives to get rid of the fireworks or to even curtail them more so than what we've done tonight?
I oftentimes speak to people who have the ability to make those changes, and they say this is as good as it's going to get right now. Doesn't mean it's going to not change later on, but yes, all of us get to events, and all of us get the same phone calls. So we would like to see it curtailed even further.
Right, I get, every time they have this period allowed, and if I'm not at home, all this trash ends up on my lawn. Somehow they aim it over or in my area. And yeah, if we could stop or curtail even more so the sales or the ignition of them, that would definitely help out the residents and most likely yourselves from getting these unfavorable phone calls.
Well, it affects all of us.
It does, adversely in most cases, except for the few that have fun lighting them off.
It's not fun when you see a building have their roof ruined because people drop those fire things on them.
Exactly.
And I've seen that personally out of my backyard.
And those are, well, that's just some of them that I'd like discontinued, but, okay, I just want to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just real briefly, Mr. Cannon, so this was prompted, though, by legislative changes. We wouldn't be able to enact these changes had the legislature not enacted and made some changes to the laws that they had previously created. So they're sort of responding to it. It may not be as far as we like or you like, but, you know, the fact is the changes that they put in place allows us to make these changes and tighten things up.
Right, but many of those have left office for whatever reason since then, most likely.
Yep.
And that's what I wanted,
Or
like.
going on to other offices.
Yeah, unfortunately, hire or something, but what I was getting to is,
Yeah, these changes just recently happened, though. We're responding to these quickly.
right,
Yes.
and with the new legislature members,
I've yelled at them.
if they just keep hearing that this is a problem from communities like ours, I think it could even go further.
They do.
Well, and a lot of the newer legislators may be local officials that then advanced on,
Exactly.
like in the case of one of the state reps here, right?
Yep.
Mr. Cannon, to that point, Mr. Hogan, if you are interested, you can contact your state representative and senator about this issue. I did hear that there may be some legislation that's introduced that may address this for more urban areas. In other words, if urban areas found it, just intolerable and wanted to make change to totally ban commercial fireworks, it's possible that legislation could be drafted for that, and then it would focus more on allowing basically those urban communities to opt out, and then it would be more appropriate in more rural areas where there's not so many houses nearby. But that, again, is just, right now, it's just in the, I don't even know if it was drafted yet, I just heard about it. But if you like that idea, certainly feel free to contact your state representative, and I believe it's Mr. Sowerby is your state rep?
Yes.
And then your state senator as well.
Thank you.
Okay, a motion to introduce is in order.
So moved.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Pearl. Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 10 is quarterly treasurer's report. Mr. Gilliam?
Yep. So the quarterly treasurer's report is one of those things that's required by statute. It's the treasurer's responsibility to actually make decisions on these investments, but it's also then my responsibility to let you know and the public know what decisions we've made with those dollars and how we've been able to grow and seek additional yield on the dollars that that we currently have available to us. And we do that by managing when the dollars come in, when they go out, how long we take. Now, the general rule has always been the longer you take out investments, the more yield that you can actually make. I put some context in this quarterly treasurer's report, along with providing all the graphs and the charts that tell you where the investments are. And that is to say, this is the time period of April 1st to June 30th, which is the first fiscal quarter of the township's fiscal year, but the second quarter of the calendar year. And the context that I wanted to put in here, and to sum it up, in that is we had the economy, or rather the stock market and the equity markets tank in December, and then came roaring back. And we are as affected by the Fed as a lot of the mindset of investors. So when they get nervous, they start prompting the Fed. We've had two things that have been increasing volatility, and that is what the Fed's doing with the prime interest rates and what the administration is currently doing on trade and tariffs, which makes companies' profitability and import and export and all of those folks nervous, right? So as an announcement is made, we see, boom, this dramatic drop. What's more stable is the Fed, and I think it's important to understand what the Fed is trying to do. During the coming out of the wake of the global economic crisis in 2008, they dramatically dropped interest rates. They kept dropping. Just as of recently, quite frankly, 17 and 18, the Fed started raising interest rates. That means we've been able to gain more yield on the limited and investment grade vehicles that we can put the township's money into. However, now what we're seeing is there's a lot of fear out there of an impending recession. The yield curve is inverted. It's a sure sign, or it's been a reliable sign, I should say. Not a sure sign, because there's nothing for sure, but reliable sign that there is some type of economic downturn on the horizon. What the Fed has been trying to do is to actually raise those interest rates, so if we do enter into another recession, they have room to actually then drop that rates, ease the money supply, put more money out there in the economy, and as a result of that, not have to go negative, which could be very harmful. So I put that stuff in there to say we are not going to make the kind of money that we've been making in the past. So the strategy that we've come up with is we asked the board at the last treasurer's report and soon after to increase. We've developed a strategy of keeping things short because it's producing better yields, and then a longer-term strategy. The decision that you made in the change in the investment policy for the township is to say, instead of a 3-year limit, we're going to allow you to take things out for 5 years. That then allows us to lock in some interest rates while there's still some yield to be had if interest rates continue to drop. And so that's the strategy moving forward. It's somewhat reflected in here, but because this is the first quarter, those actions hadn't been taken at that point. So most of our money was kept short, as reflected in this particular report. Any questions?
Comments?
Good job.
The floor is open to receive a file.
So moved.
Supported by Mr. Keys. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Good job, Paul. Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 11 is request approval to hire Plant Moran to review request by clerk's office to hire an additional records analyst.
Dear Ms. Meltzer, thank you for the opportunity to propose our professional services in Clinton Township, Michigan. We are pleased to present this engagement letter to assist the township with planning its future records management activities. We are excited about the opportunity to work with you and the township on assessing the township's records management support needs. Project background. We understand the township clerk is interested in an additional position to support the rollout of the township's electronic document management system, Laserfiche, to additional departments. Prior to a formal request for a position, the clerk would like an independent review the impact of implementation of Laserfiche on the short and long-term workload of the clerk's department compared to current staffing levels. And their project approach would be, in addition to demonstrating leadership throughout the project, we will need the township clerk to designate a project manager who will be responsible for coordinating activities with us and ensuring the participation of staff. The project will begin with a project planning meeting with the township clerk. During this meeting, we will finalize the project scope, confirm project objectives, and develop a schedule for the project. We also would like to discuss the various departments that utilize Laserfish and any challenges that have been shared with the clerk. We will request information such as procedures and policies related to records management. We will also share a deliverable outline to ensure that our deliverable will be the expectations of the township. Following the project kickoff, we will have a project kickoff meeting for all stakeholders that will be interviewed, during which time Plant Moran will share the project intent with township stakeholders and be available to answer any questions that staff may have. We anticipate this meeting can be completed in 1 hour. Plant Moran will then conduct 8 department interviews with groups of staff. The purpose behind the interviews is to identify department utilization, intended utilization, requirements, and issues related to records management. In addition to business stakeholders, IT stakeholders will be interviewed to discuss security, infrastructure, and the feasibility of a future citizen portal. The next project step will be the analysis of information, including the documentation that was shared by the township. During this phase, we may have additional requests for information, which will coordinate with the township's clerk's designated project manager. Following the analysis, we will compile our observations and findings into a draft findings letter. We will share this with the township clerk in a meeting. The outcome of this meeting will be consensus around the deliverable content. We will incorporate modifications to draft the findings letter prior to submitting it as final. And then project staffing and availability. The partner responsible for deliverables on this project will be Mr. Mark Warner, who will serve as your primary contact and provide oversight to all Plant Moran staff involved throughout the project. Ms. Lori Hoos will be the project manager and lead on-site consultant who will lead the data gathering, interviews, analysis, and presentation of the assessment. Our team will be assisted by other consultants with specific technical expertise as requested and needed to support the township's project requirements. The Plant Moran Government Consulting Team is available to begin providing assistance to the township on this project within 1 week of approval of this engagement letter. We anticipate that you will be the project manager and our main point of contact during the course of the project, and you will have the authority to make decisions on behalf of or in coordination with the township management team. Plant Moran will provide professional services as described in this engagement letter. Our not to exceed fees for providing the assistance to Clinton Township are based on our team staff, time spent providing assistance on the project, and our public sector consulting rates. Based on the expected level of involvement, $10,000 will be not to exceed amount and includes all professional fees and project-related travel expenses. Additional levels of Plant Moran consulting support for the township's project beyond what has been described in this engagement letter can be requested by the township at the appropriate time and will not be performed or billed until formally approved in writing separately by Clinton Township, Michigan. In closing, we appreciate the opportunity to be of continued service to the township. If you agree with the terms of this engagement, as described in this letter, please sign the enclosed copy and return it to us at the address on our letterhead. If you have any questions regarding this engagement, please do not hesitate to contact Lori Hoos or myself. Very truly yours, Plant Moran, Mark Warner, authorized approver of acceptance.
Thank you. Mr. Pearl?
Yes, thank you, Meltzer, for bringing this forward. We spoke with Plant Moran Government Consulting Team, and this is the proposal they're presenting. They do have expertise in this area, and they have worked with other communities with their records management system and Laserfish. So they have the expertise. A couple meetings ago, the clerk asked us to, what was on the agenda, I think a month ago, to add personnel, and I felt after meeting with her, and she agreed that maybe we should take a pause and review where we're at. It's been 4 years. Before we add more personnel to the system, that we take a look at where we're at, where we're going, what do we want to accomplish, and what's the best practice to do it. They're very familiar with that as a consulting group, and I think they should offer some good insight and where we're at, where we're going to be going, in addition to finding out where we want to go with this system. Right now, we're using it as a depository for, $6 million? pieces of
4 million
information.
pieces of
Pardon?
4 million at this
4
time.
million
then?
at this time.
Well, maybe
But there's a
more.
lot that Laserfish can do that we're not there yet. So we want to find out if we need more software, more personnel, or what from professionals that do this. And thank you for Ms. Meltzer bringing this forward.
Mr. Cannon, if I can respond to that. So we have, as I periodically do, we give, my office gives reports in terms of what we've accomplished with Laserfish. We are much more than a repository. We have one staff right now, records analyst, that creates business processes and forms, which makes the goal of accountability, transparency achievable in this township. It also makes it so that we're not creating redundancies in work product. Definitely for redundancies in terms of making sure we have access to documentation, should there be any type of security breach or an environmental breakdown of some sort. But in terms of what we have accomplished, we have done quite a bit in that arena to take away those silos and take away that duplication in work efforts. We've created a much faster return in terms of information requested and business processes performed. So it's really been a very dynamic project that's been ongoing, yes, for a little more than 4 years. I know that in the beginning, the assessment was that we would work on records management and electronic content management as we could. In other words, when we weren't hosting elections, then we would, divert our attention in the clerk's office to fully delving into records management. And as I have stated before, we have had that opportunity. We were very lucky. We haven't had an election since the November 2018 gubernatorial election. So we've had, a year basically to focus on records management. What that's done is opened our eyes, and it's also changed our perspective in terms of reevaluating really what we may want to do. And that is, my feeling is not to put it on a back burner, even though I may have said that in the beginning, because that was what we were dealing with. But now that we've opened this up and it's just exploding in terms of opportunity, I see this as a great a time to change and reanalyze as we reanalyze it and actually keep it going even during elections. I personally, nor will my clerk staff, be able to really work on records management and the electronic content management during elections. However, our records analyst can. However, she will need more than just herself to have that guidance because there is oversight that is necessary to make this thing work and work well. My deputy and myself can provide that during non-election hours or years, but all of next year is going to be, the entire year is going to be an election year. So we've got the presidential primary in March, we have the regular August primary, and then we have the presidential November election. So we will be consumed with elections next year. So that means we need somebody that's got the ability, the capability to oversee and direct the records management process. And I think that one person doing this is just not enough. In addition, one final comment I'd like to make is that should this one person that we've relied on for this very important task decide to move on, retire, or whatever, then we're back at ground zero, and there's really no exit strategy, in other words, for replacement. And we may be then having to put it on the back burner indefinitely, even though we're spending, our annual fees. So those are things and considerations to think about. I think I've thought of it very well and thorough. However, I don't necessarily, object to Plant Moran, but I do see a picture, and I do see that I do have a vision in terms of what we should be doing. I understand the board may feel differently, but I will note this: not one board member has come to me and really asked me privately how this works, what we're doing, has sat down with Stephanie, our records analyst, or Kim Irvine, my deputy. So now what you're doing is you're asking an outside vendor to come in and do something that really I feel like this board could be asking, but I understand you guys are busy. Maybe you want to rely on a professional service like Plant Moran, which I think would be not a bad idea. I think they'd be excellent, but there is a cost associated with this, and you just have to weigh that cost benefit.
I should tell you that Amy Gogo in my office went to a seminar that you put on, and she is 100% convinced that you're on the right track. Now, this should have been done by our prior clerk, and it wasn't. It serves all of our departments. She has fewer staff than our prior clerk, who are now cross-trained, and with the elections, it's not as easy as anybody thinks. With the new election laws, it's even more difficult. So it's probably a good idea to have this study done. I know that she's anxious because she does have a vision. Just have Plant Moran confirm the direction is the right direction. Mr. Keys?
Thank you, Mr. Cannon. Thank you, Ms. Meltzer, for bringing it forward, and Mr. Pearl for working with her to do that. Just a couple of questions. Reading that letter, I'm just a little confused on how the actual final price will be calculated. It says that it won't exceed $10,000, and that does seem like a reasonable price, so I'm not criticizing that. But it doesn't give me that breakdown of it's an hourly, factoring, or what is that?
Well, I think it's going to be based on, the interviews that they stated, how much time the consultant will spend with each department. It may be considerably less, I don't know, but it won't be over 10,000. I think I've given them a lot of information just through the phone interview that gives them a great foundation, so they're not having to start from ground zero. So I think that's going to help with the overall cost and reducing that cost. Specifically, at this time, we don't have a line item, but it is not to exceed 10,000. There's just too many variables, I think, at this point for them until they can kind of get in and see what it is we're doing for them to be able to give a definitive cost.
Okay, and then it says in there that 8 departments will have those interviews. Have you selected which 8 departments, and how did you go about selecting those?
We did. We discussed that. I can't think of them right offhand, but it would be like assessing, building. We're really pretty much done in our office and in the supervisor's office. There's a lot to be done in planning, in building, in assessing. There's so much to be done. We also have the fire department. We have human resources, which we're in right now. How many is that? I don't know.
No,
and
that's
then,
good. I get it.
but yes, we discussed those departments and how integral the analysis needs to be so that they have a good understanding of the documentation that's going to.
In looking at the letter, it seems that you'll be the point of contact for Plant Moran, as I think they called it like project manager or coordinator. And I understand that, being the clerk, and how important it is for document retention. My only concern is that I really think IT needs to be involved in this process. And I don't know if maybe that's just something I overlooked in the letter, but how involved is our IT director and his staff involved in terms of this system and moving forward with this study with Plant Moran?
This is not an IT project, but IT is involved in terms of helping us with the implementation of any of the software, any problems we may have, anything we need as a cloud base. They're very proactive in helping us, very reactive too when we need it. But in terms of the records management part of it, that's what clerks do, and IT is not part of that, but they certainly are part of making all of it
Right.
underneath happen or behind.
Yeah,
the
that would
scenes.
just be my final suggestion is I think that when you're talking continuity and the fear of employees leaving and then having to start at zero, I think that's, to me, the benefit of including IT is IT can create those not workflows, because I know that means something different in the system, the how-to manuals, the one-pagers, the things like that we can give to staff when they need to be trained on a new system. So one suggestion from me, and I will say that I know you had mentioned board members hadn't come to you, and I apologize about that. I know when I first got elected, you and I actually sat in your office for about an hour and a half on Laserfiche, document retention. Months later, I sat down after we appointed Stephanie in that position, and her and Kim Irvine actually sat with me and showed me the workflows. In fact, the reason I got the Surface was so I could access Laserfiche, because at the time it wasn't cloud-based. I don't know. I still don't think we as board members have access to a cloud-based portion of Laserfiche. So, I do think that the board members, specifically the trustees, are really trying to help with this and trying to be a part of it. I know Stephanie has attended a couple different meetings or training seminars. I don't know if that was the same Mr. Cannon's staff had gone to. So I think that if there is any more opportunity and you think that there's other things that we need to sit down and learn, please extend the invitation. I'd be happy to take you up on that.
Yeah, and there are webinars that you have access to anytime you
Yeah,
need.
me too.
That's one of the great things about Laserfish is that you can access it any time, day or night. When you can't sleep, go ahead and go online and access processing. But one other thing, if I can, Mr. Cannon, and I know you're very much interested in this, Mike, and that is the public portal. So they're going to, Plant Moran is going to discuss that and do the cost benefit on that. That's where I think the value in terms of me not necessarily being able to convey the importance of that yet. But it really isn't that. I think that we don't think it's important. We certainly do. But this is where IT comes in and says, wait a second. I mean, they are our gatekeepers. They're the ones that are saying, this might be a great opportunity. Technology might be there, but that doesn't mean we should take advantage of it because of the sensitivity of documentation. And not only that, just the potential of being held hostage. So this is where our IT director, Dave Pierce, comes in and says, let's put on the brakes, let's evaluate this. There's other communities right now that have been held hostage with their information, and it's cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they have to pay it. We don't want to be in that situation, and that's where IT comes in and says, we're not going to allow this at this time, or we're not going to recommend that. And I listen to our department heads, and I almost always go to them on any issue that I want to bring forward because they're the ones that are in the trenches, if you will. They're the ones that are there, fighting that fight. And I, listen to them, for what it is they need and their expertise in it. I may not always agree, and I may try to, convince them of why I want to do things a certain way. But ultimately, if they're definitive and that's it, then, we'll listen. And right now, that is why we don't have a public portal. Why I haven't come forward yet is I have discussed it extensively with our IT director and Laserfish. And Laserfish really isn't ready yet for that, to take on that liability. And that's where our IT director, I think, is very wise in saying, you know what, if they're going to hold our documentation, they should be the ones held liable for it in the cloud. So right now, we're not in that system.
Thank you.
Mr. Pearl?
Some of the meetings we had with Plant Moran were conference calls that Ms. Meltzer and I were involved in. So we did discuss a lot of these things, and you're right. They may recommend through common practices and that they've reviewed in other communities a different system to go portals. And I think we need a public portal. And I think that's one of the advantages of what we're doing. And I'm not saying let's slow down. I'm saying just take a pause. They can come in within a week and start on this if we approve this tonight. And I've met with some of the department heads to find out where they're at. And there is a change in scope because, like the building department's done the microfiche scanning, but not the actual blueprints that they have saved, which is.
But it's a busy time for them, and that's one of the things we do is, as somebody that looks over at it as a project, I have to say, we don't have to go into your department at that time if you're not ready for us. And
Okay, I'm just saying that's a lot more money, but there's, it was presented, and we're not experts at this, and don't have to be, we hire people. That's why I think Plant Moran can tell us what's the best way to go and augment. They may say, this is exactly what you're doing is correct, and go forward if that's what you want to do. But it's going to cost more money all the time to do this system, so let's make sure we're on track. It's a little bit of money to spend when you're talking about a lot of, hundreds of thousands of dollars you have to spend on this system. So I want to make sure that we're doing the best practice and learn from the other communities that have already blazed this trail in records management.
Thank you. Mr. Gilliam?
So when we kicked this process off, I was a trustee at the time, so I wasn't here full-time. But one of the things that we talked about is, do we hire somebody to come in and develop the plan, or do we engage somebody like a Plant Moran to kind of come up with a plan, a roadmap, all of that, and then hire the people then to implement that. And we've gone through a few iterations, but I really think we're moving in the right direction. I think this is a great step that we're taking to come in with a company that has experience as to how they organize this. They've worked with other communities on this. In regards to the services fee, because I had that same question, you know, it's a not to exceed $10,000. Plant Moran's a company that bills by the hour. I'm sure they can give us an hourly rate for the people that they've mentioned or the other experts that they've said that they would engage on this. I think there's a line in there. This is basically, we'll bring in other people on staff that have experience with certain technical aspects as needed. I'm sure they have an hourly rate. I'm sure Mr. Warner has an hourly rate and Ms. Hoos has an hourly rate. And so those figures, although not in here, I don't think it would be hard for them to say, okay, hourly rate for, you know, this, in this area here, this hour here, you know, this area here. So I think that's important. And then just a quick word on, you know, so there's the statutory records retention part of this, right? Okay, and that's something, we have to meet that. We have to honor that. We have to keep with that schedule. Then it's been talked about as a useful tool for us. And I, too, am excited to see that, you know, part of this letter says, how do we make this a useful tool for the public and the public portal? I understand there's concerns, you know, doing online payment systems. We have to make sure we meet all these banking standards and all of that. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's like we're balancing technology and safety of our information, but hopefully they can lend us the expertise that they have to make this a valuable thing, not just for us, not just to keep up with the statutory requirements, but then also to allow the public to have this as a useful tool for their community. So I think we're moving in the right direction. I'm very pleased. Thanks.
Mrs. West?
Thank you. I would agree. I would concur with everybody. I think it's pretty, can't figure out what word it would be, for Plant Moran to make it and do not exceed a certain amount, because this could be an enormous amount of work, and they're giving us a price straight, you know, up front. I guess my one question is, we're also in the process of looking at a strategic planner. Will this plan, do you know, dovetail into that? Or are we going to be, you know, replicating what they're doing with the strategic plan, or what? Do you know?
No, I wouldn't think so, no, not at all. I think the strategic plan actually will look at this and, you know, do a review of what it is we're working on, but this is not going to be repetitive, or, you know, I think that we're going to see from whoever does the strategic plan is going to use it just to analyze the process and say, you know, whether they think it's a good thing or not. But I mean, we really are paving the way. Other communities in Macomb County that have utilized this really are using it more as, you know, retention only. And not just in Macomb County, but statewide. When I go to conventions, I seek out other clerks that are, you know, using Laserfiche, and I say, oh, you know, are you building business processes and business and forms? And they're like, oh, no, we don't do that. We just put all the documents in there. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, I mean, there's a lot to doing that, and I you know, but that's not what you want to I mean, that's not what this whole thing does. So I think that, you know, any part of the strategic plan, we'll want to look at this and say, you know, that they're glad we're doing it, quite frankly. But I don't see this as interfering with, or.
No, I mean, I just want to make sure we're either not duplicating, or that whoever our strategic planner is will be using this. I mean, I think you all know I come from the healthcare side of things, and I've helped when I was at Henry Ford. We ended up getting the electronic medical record up. And at that time, it was just put the data in. Now you can do so much more with it. So I totally understand, you know, where you're going with this. I do think it's pretty bold of just saying not to exceed 10,000, because it could be a lot of hours for them.
I think that I'm sorry, Mr. Cannon, can I? I think that they base that on the conversation that Mr. Pearl and I had with them. we gave them a lot of information to start out with, so I think they had a really good foundation to guesstimate that, where they would not have to worry about exceeding.
Thank you.
Mr. Cannon, move to approve the contract with Platt Moran not to exceed 10,000.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Keys. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ferraro?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Item 12 has been deleted. Item 13, request to close session. Discuss a legal opinion in regard to the Lipty Street water easement acquisition.
So moved.
Pardon me?
Written legal.
Written legal opinion.
Written legal opinion.
Right. Second is.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who made the motion? I'm sorry. Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Item 14, award of Green Macomb Urban Forest Partnership.
Dear members of the board, the Green McCombs U.S. Forest Service Great Lakes Restoration Initiative Grant has awarded the Charter Township of Clinton 40 trees. The award is a reimbursable dollar value not to exceed a total of $6,000 with an average of $150 per tree. The Green Macomb Urban Forest Partnership is the first project of the Green Macomb Initiative. This program's goal is to grow healthy urban forests in the most urbanized areas of the county. The Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, or SEMCOG, has identified Macomb County as a major target for urban tree canopy increases. Tree canopy increases will reduce stormwater runoff and non-point source pollution impacts. The Conservation Committee, on behalf of the Charter Township of Clinton, applied for this grant in hopes of getting 40 trees to plant at Joy Park and Normandy Park. This will be the third time the Conservation Committee has applied and been awarded the grant. Previously, they planted trees at Joy, Prince Drury, and the Civic Center parks. We have a tentative disbursement plan for the trees and proposed a planting date of either October 5th, 2019 or October 19th of 2019. DPS workers can accommodate digging and planting the trees, although overtime will be needed in order to maintain their regular daily duties as well. Sincerely, Mary Bednar, Public Services Director.
Thank you. And Mrs. Bednar, who wrote the grant? Did you or Mr. Chabot?
Mr. Chabot is on the committee, and he put most of it together, but we used some township staff to, make sure, because it is for our parks.
Okay. And I know that part of this grant is we have to maintain the trees for 2 years, including watering, so that's going to increase the workload of your department.
Correct.
Okay. Further comments or questions?
So if I could, this has been a great project ever since it started. The county came up with this. They came up with this. Oh, these are the communities that we're going to focus on. They focused on higher density areas of the county. And so we weren't in on the first round of their, basically, coming in and doing massive projects. But they then came up with this grant project. And we've been very aggressive with Scott's help, AEW, and, his firm where he's been. And Ms. Bednar's staff has been absolutely phenomenal at, the first time they dug all the holes for us, and then we had volunteers go out to Prince Drury and to Joy Park. We asked them the next year, don't do that scoop. We need the whole auger, because by the time we were done, putting that dirt back in the holes was just incredible. Because it was a square hole. We need a smaller round hole. But then, last year, here at the Civic Center, we went out, members of the committee went out, and they lit dropped the entire area around the Civic Center with a flyer saying, come and join us. So I'm getting snacks and I'm getting stuff because, you want to keep people hydrated. And I'm like, all right, I'll just go get some donuts too. I'm like, I need more donuts, because I pulled up to the Township Civic Center. We had so many volunteers here. It was incredible that we had to ask DPW to go out and actually dig more holes. because we had so many people here. Then we had a daisy troop that said, well, what can they do? So we literally had them mounding up the mulch after the holes were planted in the ground, and everybody was participating, and that was great. The one thing I do want to mention, the first year, and this is one of the things that I just love, and we weren't able to do it with volunteers, but DPW, and that's why these guys were guys and gals and everybody involved were so great, and that is we came up with the idea of actually putting them on Gratiot Avenue, where we have some right-of-way, so it's just the west side, unfortunately, but near bus stops. So we know that some of these bus stops do not have the enclosures. They just have a sign, basically. And so this then provides tree canopy in years to come for people that rely on public transportation. So this is a great project, and anything we can do to increase the tree canopy, I thank all the folks that are involved. And I'm very proud of the efforts of the Conservation Committee on this as well.
I'm very much in favor of the program. In fact, when anyone came to me, I was always in favor of what it is you wanted to do with the trees and how to do it. But I do want to caution, there is a cost to the township. When they dig holes on Friday, the work that doesn't get completed by DPW gets completed on Saturday, chipping and so forth. And on Saturday, even though we have volunteers, there's still a need for equipment, specialized equipment that our volunteers couldn't use. So it is a small amount. But when she comes for an adjustment of her budget, I want everyone to remember that we're the ones causing it.
Mr. Cannon?
Thank you, Mr. Cannon. As a member of the Conservation Committee, I just appreciate this opportunity. We sit in meetings often and discuss projects, but to actually go out and plant some trees, it makes you feel like you're making a difference. So I appreciate that. I would just tell the public that there are multiple spots on the Conservation Committee open right now. And so please go. We have our own website attached to the township's website. Go on that and see what we're doing. Look at the dates for the opportunities that you can get involved, but also you could join the committee. And I agree, Mr. Cannon, I appreciate you bringing that up, because I think we take advantage of your department a little too much sometimes, Mary. Not just the Conservation Committee, but I think the entire township. I mean, whether we're talking water fountains out here at the Civic Center, trees on Gratiot, your guys and girls are spread out throughout the entire township getting things done. So I do appreciate that. And I think you're right, Mr. Cannon, that when we look at doing things like this, increasing the tree canopy, I'm proud that this board is willing to say, yes, we know there's an added cost, and we're willing to take that on to improve our township and make sure that we have trees throughout. So thank you.
Mr. Aragona?
I think it was me. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right. Or did you have something?
go ahead.
No. Just some advice, and you can take it or leave it as a Conservation Committee. And when you're looking for some people, maybe you should be looking for some more people with brawn instead, and go like to Powerhouse Gym. Go into the gyms and post your flyers in there and get some folks that, really like to, put some, muscle into their workout, and that might get
Advertise it
you.
as free workouts.
Yes, and they might, you might get some.
Clinton Township Conservation
muscles.
Workout Plan.
Yeah, that's good.
The other thing, if I can, if you guys would indulge me, and I know that you've been contacted by the Clinton River Watershed Council. I serve on that board of directors, and every year I have hosted a river cleanup. I did it when I was a trustee, and we're doing it again, and I want the Conservation Committee to be involved as well. So anybody that's listening, if you can come out on September 21st for the river cleanup, we are getting into the water, and I'm trying to think of the canoe and Simple Adventures, sorry. We contract with them, and they're going to provide the canoes and kayaks, the life vests, and any of the things, that the arms to get the garbage out of the river. It's just about 3 hours. We're in the water. It's a great opportunity. It's so incredibly beautiful. This resource we have, the Clinton River, is amazing. So I just appreciate what the Conservation Committee has done in terms of the trees and all types of conservation. But September 21st, if you could also help out with that, that'd be great.
So when you're saying you're in the water, you're not physically in the water, you're in a boat?
Well, we're in the boat. Yeah, we're in a boat. We're in a canoe or a kayak in the water.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, we're not swimming in the water.
But if you got some waders.
Mr. Aragona?
Well, if you need them, you have to let us know.
Yes, thank you. I just want to, first of all, echo what Paul was saying. There was a ton of people last year out there helping volunteer. I planned for hours and hours because I figured, I can come by and sling some mulch. That's no big deal. But, we were out of there quick. I thought that was great. So, if we can get those same type of volunteers, many hands make light work. That was fantastic. I did have a question, though. Did we have to approve overtime that last time? Does anybody remember?
It was within.
No, it's more of a, first of all, we always take grants to the board so that you approve that we're accepting this grant from the county.
Sure.
And then the second thing is because of lessons learned, now I know that a lot of times I go over my overtime. Usually around Christmas time, I'm coming to you asking for an overtime budget amendment because my DPW guys also are the ones out there plowing the roads and helping with keeping the snow cleared here. You know, we're a 24/7/365 days, a year group. So going into Christmas time and knowing that I was out of budget, and knowing that winter hadn't hit yet, I had to come in. So this is just kind of a precursor of saying, we budget, we try to anticipate, but as a precursor to let you know. I will tell you know, the current trees that we've already planted, which was, are we like up into 80 now?
More than that.
Yeah, more than that.
More than that, because we did 60 here last year, we
And
did
then
50 the year before, so.
Yeah, so we're at 110. It takes us about a two-person crew a whole day to water those. By the grant, we have to keep them watered for 2 years. So we're at, we take two people and one day a week, if it's really dry like we've had the last couple of weeks, it's 2 days a week that they're out watering and not doing other DPW functions. What does that really mean? If we can push it and not do something until the following week or whatever, we do that. But sometimes, we get behind on chipping and we get people calling saying, what do you mean? I put branches out on the street and you're telling me it's 3 to 4 weeks? And then we ask if we can come in on a Saturday and do chipping. So this is just kind of reminding people, and thank you for recognizing that you are, our guys, they're amazing. They'll do anything. I mean, these are the same guys that are at the Gratiot Cruise, whenever you need, or our Wednesday festival with the free, these are the same, it's the same group, the Festival of Senses. It's not just snow and it's not just trees. It's, they're amazing. And this is kind of to let you know we're going to have overtime.
Okay.
Do they have a watering truck, Mary?
We do have a watering truck, but like the ones on Gratiot, I mean, you got to be safe, right? You can't just be stopping a lane of traffic on Gratiot. So that takes more time and more personnel to do.
Because you could check on some of the services if we're running into too much overtime, that the watering trucks that take care of the intersections and the boulevards and stuff, mediums. I've seen them out there watering, and they have a big spread on their trucks. And they go by pretty quick and water everything. Where they replanted after they paved the street? Maybe we can use them for part of it, if it's more
I
economical.
think you might run into, duties of work and so forth issues with the unions, and since we've been doing
I don't want
it.
to run into any problems with the union.
So.
Okay.
Okay, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Discussion and award of storm sewer repairs in Ridgewood Estates. Closed session.
Closed session, yeah.
Letter from our
Again, to
attorney.
Consider another written opinion in closed session.
So moved to go into closed session.
Support.
Roll call,
Mr. Quinn, I have
please.
a quick question about that.
Yes.
I got two emails today, I think both on this topic. One was marked confidential and the other one was not. Are both documents confidential?
The written opinion is confidential.
So the second document then that I'm trying to pull up again that was sent out by Ms. Irvine today, can we get that included in the public packet?
We'll be discussing in closed session, and then depending on what you do, we may be coming out on that.
Oh, we are coming out?
We might.
Okay, and that's fine. My concern is that tomorrow, if a member of the public goes to the packet, any information we can provide, I want to be able to do that. So if maybe after closed session, we're able to talk a little bit, or during closed session, we can talk about what documents can be released, and then maybe the clerk would be able to add those at a later date.
No problem.
Thank you.
I think you can release the documents other than my letter.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Aragona? Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 16, request approval to pay the SEMCOG annual membership dues.
So
this-
moved.
Just so you know, this is, well, in the amount of $12,570, and it was due on February 1st. I'm not sure where, they just brought it back to our attention, so it's time to pay it.
Okay. Been moved and supported.
But who supported that? Thank you.
Mr. Keys, roll call, please.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of the July 29th regular township board meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Wait a minute, I think there
Hold
was
on.
an issue with that one. Mr. Gilliam, I think, did you do any corrections to that?
I did not.
Okay, I think you might want to look at page, I think it was like page 4, I want to say.
Page 4.
Okay.
I was looking at it earlier today.
So July 29th or 7th?
The 29th, the regular board meeting. I believe that's what you were voting on, correct?
Yes, the 29th.
So I'm,
Looks like you want to take a look over here?
yeah.
Yeah, we're on page 4. It looks like it says you voted twice. I don't think you voted twice, so you might want to, I don't remember who you voted for, but I'm assuming you didn't vote twice for Mara.
Oh, right, it was Gotti.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah,
Oh, I
thanks
see
for
that.
catching that.
Yeah.
I did not see that. Okay.
What is that? I'm sorry. What
It's,
did we change it?
I voted for Maher Gilchrist.
Oh, yeah.
And Gotti.
That, yeah, okay.
Yep.
Very good. We'll make a change.
With that correction, roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Oh, wait. No, I'm
Wait,
sorry.
wait.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Sorry. Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Approval of the minutes of the August 7th special township board meeting.
So moved with any corrections from Mr. Aragona?
None at this time. I'll support it.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Approval of the bills.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Public comment, we have two. Mr. Sambushell is first.
Sam Bushel, 18546 Wayland Drive. What I wanted to talk about tonight is the fact that we have this new trucking company that I mentioned at the special meeting. It's at 37641 Groesbeck, Ahoa Express. I'm wondering, did their tax value go up when they added, they added a fence over around acreage? They've got the,
Mr. Cannon, if I may. Sam, so I saw your email.
Yeah.
I was in the office before the meeting. I texted you the links. All of that information is on the website. It's all available to the public. Go to clintontownship.com/treasure. You can type in the address. I always advise searching just for the actual numbers rather than typing in the street too, because then all of the addresses that have that number, then you just click on the street and you can click on taxes, and then you'll see, one, their assessed valuation, their taxable valuation, and the amount that they paid. And yes, it was, I think from 18 to 19, it went from like 55 in,
out.
yeah.
You can give a brief answer.
But so, I'm answering this question directly. So, yes, it went up from assessed valuation 55,000 to 94,000, and taxable value went from like 30-some thousand to the 94,000.
okay, because what I was wondering about is because I had put it in a FOIA, and the township, for the answer to the FOIA, there was no record of this property, even though, like I said, Mrs. West had mentioned it at the planning commission, when she was still on the planning commission. Then the other thing because I was wondering, is it like the commercial tent, when commercial tents get approved, and they have no tax value?
Well,
The other
we
problem.
do all of it with, sometimes it's hard to find by an address. It's oftentimes with vacant property, it's easier to find with parcel numbers. So,
This is,
just-
what he's talking about isn't even a FOIA-able issue. He can go on our website and get it.
well.
It's available
yeah,
to
I
him.
mean,
still
it's public
FOIA-able.
information, but I'm just trying to clear things out.
Then the other thing that I was asking about was, and I've asked this question in written format at these meetings, was the length to complete site plan requirements, including variances. And this would be because of the, it's been years since the approval of the conversion of the bowling alley club. And it had these huge variances of, 50-foot, variances and everything else, getting rid of. They've been there for years. How long do they have to complete or even start anything? Because now it's just been a mess for a couple of years out in front.
They have substantially started the project.
But I know, but is there a time frame to actually finish a site plan?
No.
There's no site plan, none whatsoever. They can go for years and years and years, because building permits have 18-month.
They're within their time frame right now, and your time has expired.
Okay, because of a lot of it, answering back. Yep.
Our second is Bob Hogan.
Bob Hogan, 36755 Bar Street, Clinton Township. This is more of a community announcement or information. I was told within the last 10 days, in no uncertain terms, that you need a fishing license to fish in the ponds in back of me in front of the Civic Center. I couldn't believe the answer that you need a fishing license, a Michigan fishing license. I contacted the DNR, and they gave me two different members of the DNR, one a manager and one a field manager, that stated in no uncertain terms that a fishing license is not required to fish in either of these ponds. I've got it on DNR letterhead. So I just wanted everyone to know in the community, or even outside the community, if you want to fish in this pond in back of me, and there are some good fish out there that you're allowed to, and you're allowed to without a fishing license. I've got the copies in front of me on DNR letterhead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we will be going into closed session, but there has been a change. We may be coming out of closed session, so the cable department needs to remain in case that should occur. So we're going into closed session.
Thanks, Bob.
Call the meeting of the Township Board back to order. Mr. Chabot, we're returning to item 15, the emergency storm sewer repair. What is your recommendation?
Based on our review of the bids and the information provided, our recommendation would be to go with DVM Utilities, Inc., based with their bid amount of $94,500.
So moved.
Moved by
Support.
Mr. Gilham, supported by Mr. Keys. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. A motion to adjourn is now in order.
Support?
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Jack.